Hi, I have in front of me here an 8-channel AHD analog high definition DVR. This is a fantastic unit. It can work with both the new AHD Full HD cameras, but it also is compatible with previous versions of cameras, and we actually have it set up here as part of our demonstration. So the format for our video here is, what we'll be doing here is we'll just give an overview of exactly what comes in the box. We'll take a detailed look at the actual unit itself, and then we'll give a demonstration here. We have 2 cameras set up. On channel 1, I believe it is our AHD camera. It's a 1.3 megapixel camera, and beside it we have a 700 TVL standard analog camera. So it comes in this outer box here. What we have is we have a user manual here, just gives the description and an overview of the setup. We have a CD with the software. We also have a 3-pin power unit, which is 12 volts, 3.3 amps output. We have, for mounting the internal hard drive, it can handle a hard drive of up to 3 terabytes. So what we have here is we have the rails here, the screws, and also the SATA cable. And then we have a remote control with a set of AAA batteries. Now what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to come around to the front of the unit and we'll just give an overview of the features that are there. So there's a lot of redundancy here in terms of a lot of the features that come with the actual remote control are replicated on the front of it. So we have a USB port here which we can use for, we'll say, extracting recordings, upgrading firmware, etc. We have the following, which is just for selection and entering and scrolling through menus. And then we have backup, mute, menu, utility. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this because we'll be able to display it quite effectively when we come over to the DVR itself, and we'll be using it through a mouse, probably the most effective way of doing it. We can also actually access the PTZs, and it's possible to control multiple PTZs directly from this DVR here, so it's very flexible to that extent. I'm going to rotate this unit around. We'll just look at the back here, and what we have is, in terms of the output here, we have a total of 8 video inputs here, and we have a total of 4 audio inputs as well. There is 2 audio outputs on it there as well. So in terms of the connections then to the TV, it's possible to connect it to a monitor via the VGA, but alternatively most people obviously would be using the HDMI simply because it's more flexible straight to a TV, particularly if you have audio connected, because VGA of course won't be supporting audio for you. In terms of what we can add on, there's great flexibility in this. So we can control relays, we'll say. So you can have a relay that's working a gate. So if you see somebody driving up to the camera, you can hit a thing and then it'll send a signal via the DVR directly to the gates to open. We also have a series of alarms, and then of course there's an RS485 as well, so we can control multiple PTZs from it. What we have here is a LAN connection. So obviously we're going to network this, and that'll be the norm, and then there's a USB port here as well, so we can once again just replicate what we have in the front. We have the power input, and we also have the main BNC connection out. So what I'm going to do at this point in time is I'll just come along and I'll grab the press here, and what we can see here is I'll just right click here. So there's a whole series of menus here. Now we're going to focus primarily on the configuration menu here, but there's auto sequence, backup, there's time search, there's systems logs, playback, PTZ control, zoom, freeze video, and then there's a different ways of setting this up. So we can come up here, we have whatever cameras are there, the main on it, and we could do a main screen here, or we could do multiple screens, 4 or 8. Well, in this case 9 of course. Well, 8 and 9 are being used. So that's basically it. If we just go to the main menu here, we can just go in and we can see here, we'll say the system setup. It's prompting us for the password, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and hit return. And now what we're into is we just have auto lockout enabled, disabled. We have an auto reboot, so we could have this, and sometimes you want the system to be doing it. And what you can actually do is, would say, if you had a problem with a DVR, for instance, that can only be cleared by rebooting it, starting it up again, what you can actually do is you could log in remotely, get in there and set it to a certain time, and then it'll automatically reboot itself and maybe fix the problem remotely. So there's some cool features on it like that. What we have here then is if we go into the event setup here, we can have things, we'll say, what to do if there's video loss, where we want to trigger an event, a pop-up thing on it, send a buzzer thing, enable a relay, various different things that are possible on it. And it's on a modular state, channel 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down to channel 8. And we have a general override one here, so we could click here and be affecting all the cameras there. So it's video loss, but it's also motion detection. It's for the sensor as well, and also for the system here. So you can just say what to do, like do you want to relay, do you want to send an email, do you want to do the various things. So there's huge flexibility in terms of that. If we come back out to the next thing here, which is the record setup here, what we've done fairly interesting here, Lee, is that the first camera we put onto channel 1 is a 720p, so it's a full HD camera. But on this one here, what we have is just a 700 TVL, and it's auto-detecting on that, and it's actually changing the configuration that it's setting for, because it's able to detect what type of camera is connected to it. So there's fantastic flexibility there in it. Obviously, there's an implication in terms of the amount of hard drive being used, depending on the amount of number of frames and also the picture resolution that we're recording at. So we have an option to drop it to a lower resolution, or to drop the number of frames from 25 per second to say maybe 10 per second, something like that. So it's up to people on that. Do it. And if we come along here and we're making an adjustment on a particular channel, we can see what the impact the brightness control on it would be, and we're able to control that directly from the DVR here. So that's a really impressive feature there. And we could save the settings, and obviously not going, I'm just going to exit out there. So when we go into the system information, we have no hard drive installed, and it's not on the network at this point, but it's just giving the model and the version number of it. And in later videos we will have hard drives installed, and we'll cover that here. In terms of the camera here, this is basically for PTZ setup. And you're able to click through each of the things, set up the PID. So you can see the user interface on it. It's really beautiful. Like, you know, it's been improving generally as we've gone up through the ranks of better and better DVRs, but this one is by a mile the easiest to navigate. The storage setup here, we're able to come along. Once again, we don't have it, and it's saying video preservation in hours, and you can come along and you can set it there to the number of hours of video you want to do. The one thing I'll say about AHD is it's very demanding in terms of hard drives compared to what we would have had before, and it's just the amount of data that's been stored because the picture resolution is much higher. In terms of the network setting, it has the different things here. We're setting up with static IPs, setting it up on 3G. All this type of stuff is possible within here. And once again, we're going to have further videos in the series with it. And when I just exit out here, we'll just go into account setup. So what we can do here is just set up user accounts, all the rest of it, and expiry dates on it, enable, disable people. So it's all pretty straightforward on it. So in terms of, we'll say, the DVRs that we have in the range here, the most popular we've added on first in the AHD range is the 4 and the 8-way. So when we're buying this, or when it's being sold, the common thing will, people will obviously buy this DVR, they're trying to future-proof their investment, so they're saying this is the highest resolution thing on it. But in terms of the upfront investment, certainly if you're replacing an existing DVR or something like that, if you wanted to add on some particularly high resolution cameras, be able to buy this DVR and change out 1 or 2 cameras, but all the existing cameras, as we've seen with our current setup, will simply work automatically onto it. So it really offers great flexibility on it. In terms of, we'll say, the setup and the skills that you need, much simpler to use than, say, IP cameras in terms of the networking knowledge you need. But the huge advantage I find in comparison to IP really is if you end up troubleshooting afterwards, the IP, you know, you really need to know your stuff, if a camera goes offline, how to bring it back online, all the rest of it. Where with this one here, you're using straightforward BNC connectors, all the rest of it. It's much more logical, straightforward. Troubleshooting is just easier. So that's it anyway, an overview of the 8-channel AHD, full HD DVR.